I'll rush up a little bit. Next presentation is from someone who has been working in the standardization area for years and has contributed to a number of OASIS standards, specifically in the open identity environment. Let me call it that way. Please welcome Prabhav Sirivardena. Welcome, Prabhav. So, you with WSO2. I must say this name in German is much faster, WSO2. What type of applications are you building in WSO2?
Yeah, so basically WSO2 produces a completely open source, all under Apache 2 license, a comprehensive platform for connected business. So that includes like wide variety of products that could cater different aspects from data to screen. So we have identity server, enterprise service bus, API manager, likewise.
Okay, so you're working for a company building the connected enterprise, and you're going to tell us something about the connected identities tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So this is basically my third time at the EIC for last 4 years. Thanks. And it's fantastic to be here again and again. I guess every one of you likes listening to stories. So let me start with a quick story. So it was August 2012. Matt Honan, a reporter for the Wired magazine based in San Francisco, he returned in his home. And as usual, he started playing with his little daughter. At this point, he didn't have any clue what's going to happen next. Suddenly, his iPhone powered down. He was expecting a call, so he plugged that into a wall power socket and rebooted it back. What he witnessed next simply blew him away. Usually, he didn't see the normal iPhone home screen with all sorts of apps. It was a screen presented to him asking to reset his iPhone. So to set up a new iPhone with a welcome screen. So for a moment, he thought, OK, something wrong with my iPhone. And he was not that worried, because he used to back up his iPhone and MacBook daily to iCloud. So if I could get into iCloud, then I can restore my iPhone. That's what he thought. So he tried to log into iCloud. He typed his usual credentials, but it failed. He tried again, failed. Again, failed. Anyway, he thought maybe I am a bit excited with the things happened immediately. He tried for one last time. That failed too. So now what? Only hope he had was his MacBook. So he was planning that if I could log into my MacBook and use the local backup to restore the iPhone, then that could work. So he tried to log into his MacBook, booted it up. That didn't work either. It prompted a screen to enter a 4-digit passcode that he has never set up before. He was like almost hopeless. But this guy never gives up. So he tried to call Apple Technical Center to reclaim his iCloud account. Then he learned that he has called 30 minutes before and reset his iCloud password. At that time, to reset your iCloud account, you only wanted to know 2 things: your billing address and the last 4 digits of your credit card. So Honan's billing address was readily available with his WHOIS internet domain account for his personal website. And also, to get the last 4 digits of his credit card, the attacker contacted Amazon Help Center, Amazon Help Desk. So he already had Honan's full billing address and the last the email address. So using those, the attacker executed a simple social engineering attack and got the last 4 digits of Honan's credit card. So Honan lost almost everything, but the attacker was still need more. Then he broke into Honan's Gmail account, and from there, he reset his email account, sorry, his Twitter account, and got the control of his Twitter handle. So one by one, the connected identity of Honan started to fall into the hands of the attacker. Something we all know by heart, the principle of the weakest link. Any computer system out there is as strong as the strength of the weakest link. You might have protected your iPhone with biometrics, your MacBook with biometrics, but who cares? If I can get access to your iCloud account over the web using simple username and password, I can wipe off all your data in your iPhone or in your MacBook. Today, the global internet economy is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 trillion US dollars. And by 2016, almost half the world's population, that's around 3 billion people, will use the internet. And maybe that number will grow up with the Internet Org initiative by Facebook. And during 2008, the number of things connected to the internet exceeded the number of people on Earth. 2012, the number of devices connected to the internet was around 12.5 billion. And by the end of this year, number would be around 25 billion. By 2020, it's estimated the devices connected to the internet will be 50 billion. Connected devices have been existed since the introduction of computer networks and consumer electronics. But it wasn't till the internet emerged the concept of the global connected planet started to take off. In 1990s, researchers theorized how human and machines view together a new form of communication and activity in terms of machines. So that's the reality today unfolding in front of or before our eyes. The word identity is no more just about humans. It represents both humans and things. The identity of things is an effort that involves assigning unique identifiers and also set of associated metadata to devices out there, so they can communicate, talk to each other over the internet. The metadata associated with each unique identifier will define the identity for the corresponding endpoint. The identity of things is a key ingredient in Internet of Things, which basically enable anything imaginable and addressable and accessible through internet. So in this context, the thing is an entity. It can be a physical object or a logical object, which can be addressable by a unique identifier and also can communicate over network. The definition of the identity has evolved with the internet. It's no more about attributes and claims. It's about attributes, claims, plus behaviors, patterns, and all about you. The Fitbit that you wear while you are sleeping knows about your sleeping patterns. The sensors attached to the connected car knows about your driving patterns. The sensor attached to your refrigerator knows about your daily food consumption patterns. At the moment, there are no identity stores out there which could build a unified view of a given user's identity, aggregating all those stuff, aggregating attributes, behaviors, patterns, everything. So let's, for the moment, forget about this aggregated view. We also have more challenging questions. The ownership of the data and data migration. So connected cars collect and store vast amount of data. This data goes well beyond user preferences and settings. So the connected cars collect driver data such as travel routes, travel destinations, car speeds, driver behaviors, commute patterns, and much more. These connected cars are only a fraction of devices connected to the internet that enables users to set their preferences and then collect user data. These IoT devices also let you define your virtual identity. While all these user-generated data would possibly last forever, the connected cars and the other IoT devices won't. They won't last forever. So this raises an important question. So what would happen to my data with all these devices? So if I want to sell my connected car and buy a new one, what would happen to the data stored in the previous car? Can I migrate those data to new one? And also the other question is, where all these data get stored? Connected car data and user preferences are primarily stored in cloud-based silos. There are no universal standards or agreed upon best practices among car manufacturers and connected car in the connected car industry to collect, store, and manage car owners' data. There's no universal standard out there to manage the car owner's identity, which includes storage and export of user preferences and user history. So identity silos creates a lot of friction in enterprise, in the connected enterprise. How do we get rid of this friction? How do we get rid of these identity silos? One way is to expose your data through APIs. Even without breaking the data silos, even without changing the ownership of data, you can simply expose your data through APIs. Then the end user would benefit from this. So you can aggregate all the data from different places and build an aggregate identity view of that particular user. And also, the businesses will benefit by having access to the complete aggregate view of a user's identity. With this, one can compare his sleeping patterns with driving patterns, his daily food consumption patterns with sleeping patterns, and many more. For example, the BMW connected drive, which connects a Fitbit, would know whether you had a good sleep last night or not. And based on that, the BMW connected drive can present you options to do a safe drive. Then the challenge is, how do we propagate user identities across these APIs? We need to come up with a security model which is protocol agnostic. If we build BMW connected drive to compatible with the security model of the Fitbit API, then what would happen if the BMW connected drive wants to wants to wants to find the nearest restaurant through Yelp, which is highly rated by your Facebook friends? Then it has to be compatible with the security model of Yelp as well as Facebook. In other words, we are starting to talking about building a security model which is point-to-point, which doesn't scale. So in fact, that lead to the anti-pattern called spaghetti identity. So you have a lot of connections. One product has to support all the protocols. Identity silos and spaghetti identity are two anti-patterns that are not just present in IoT world. If you look at the history, most of the companies grow today via acquisitions, mergers, and partnerships. In US only, mergers and acquisitions volume totaled to $865.1 billion in the first 9 months of 2013, according to Dealogic. And that's a 39% growth or improvement from the previous year, and the highest total for the first 9 months since 2008. A research done by the analyst firm called Coserca confirms in today's world, most enterprises work with external users than internals. In Europe, 58% transact directly with users from other businesses or consumers. And in UK, that figure is around 65%. Another analyst firm predicts by 2020, 60% of all digital identities interacting with enterprises will come from external IDPs. Each external identity provider can be treated as an identity silo. The service providers or the identity consumers need to trust these identity providers to accept and use identity. And beyond this trust, both the service provider and the identity provider must talk the same language to bootstrap the initial trust relationship and then transport identity tokens. Think about a case a service provider doesn't support the identity token sharing protocol supported by the IDP. Then either you have to change the IDPN to talk the same language as of the service provider or fix the service provider. So this is what you see, identity silo. In one silo, there can be service providers and identity providers all talk SAML. The other silo, there can be service providers and identity provider all talk OpenID Connect. So how do we bridge these two federation silos? Under today's context, connected business is a very, very dynamic and complex environment. You desire to reach customers, partners, distributors, and suppliers to build more interactions, activities with them, and then to grow the revenue of your company. This doesn't merely mean that just by breaking technological silos in your company will do that. You need to expose your companies and make your company more accessible and reactive to the rest of the world. Having friction to build connection between the business entities is not something tolerable. If the cost of introducing or provisioning a service provider or an identity provider to your existing system is high due to the protocol incompatibilities, then that won't work. That won't scale. And also, the point-to-point connections that you create between service providers and identity providers will also won't work. With identity bus or the identity broker in the middle, we can solve most of these issues. The identity broker will take care of mediating different ID tokens between multiple heterogeneous protocols. You get an OpenID Connect token from a service provider, then the identity broker can transform this into a SAML token. Then send to the IDP, then get the response, SAML response from the IDP, transform it to an OpenID Connect response, and send to the service provider. And also, you don't need to build point-to-point trust relationships. Service providers always trust the IDP, and IDP will connect all the IDPs, other IDPs, and the service providers. And if you extend the functionality of an identity broker, you can further enforce access control rules, and then do auditing, monitoring centrally. So with the ever-evolving standards in Identity Federation, so you had SAML dominating for more than a decade, now the OpenID Connect, so there can be more and more standards coming up. And also there are no proper standards for managing device identities, and there are no proper standards to propagate device identities. In that world that we cannot completely fully rely on a particular standard, the identity broker or the identity bus will play a key role in building a comprehensive, open, connected identity platform. And that also would be protocol agnostic. Yeah.
Thank you. Very short question. So using a technology, my Fitbit will tell my car that I will have 50 horsepower more the one day than the other. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's basically imaginary. So that's, I guess, where we need to go towards. And then again, the challenge is data privacy and security.
Yeah.
So my talk is about like the benefits, risk, and challenge. So the benefit is basically, to the end user, you build a comprehensive, complete view of your identity, aggregating different parts from different players. And that will also benefit the business. The challenge is, how do we aggregate these different parties together? So one option is an identity broker. So that's just a one option. Then the risk, privacy, and security.
Yeah, that's what we're going to address. Necessary but needed. Thank you again.
Thank you.